Hello, everyone. My name is John from Community Life Church in Catskill, New York, and this is Meals Ready to Eat from the Bible. Please like, subscribe, hit that bell icon to get notified. Facebook, follow us, like us, and everybody, please leave a comment. Thanks. Hello, and welcome back. Continuing our series today, Who is Jesus? He is God. This is part 3. So we can see that Jesus is God throughout the book of Mark, throughout the whole Bible, as a matter of fact. Looking at the book of Mark, shortest gospel, most succinct gospel, so that's a good place to look for stuff like this. Anyway, so who is Jesus? Well, to begin with, he is God. You can read about this in the Gospel of Mark. You can read about it in other places. Again, we're looking at the Gospel of Mark. Now, some people will say, well, Jesus never came out and said, I am God, but he acted like he is God. He did things that only God can do. He talked like he is God. So all the stuff adds up to, oh yeah, that's what he's saying. That's what he's doing. That is who he is. So this is not like in our day, like some claim, like I'm an expert and I know this and I know that. This is who he is, and he's acting as who he is. So in the book of Mark, we have many examples, and we're going to continue. We're going to take a look at a few more, starting right now. All right, let's take a look at today's scriptures. We're going to start with Mark 4:35 through 41. Just read this, do a little comment on it. On that day, when evening had come, he said to them, let's cross over to the other side. And leaving the crowd, they took with them in the boat, just as he was, and other boats were with him. And a great windstorm arose, and the waves were breaking into the boat, so that the boat was already filling. In other words, things about to sink, the water's coming in the boat, they can't keep up with the bailing. But he was in the stern, asleep on the cushion. And they woke up and said to him, Teacher, do you not care that we are perishing? Obviously he does. And he woke and rebuked the wind and said to the sea, Peace, be still. And the wind ceased, and there was a great calm. He said to them, Why are you so afraid? Have you still no faith? And they were filled with great fear and said to one another, Who then is this that even the wind and the sea obey him? All right, and we'll take a look at the book of Job. Now, Job, this is at the end of the book of Job. We're talking about who God is. And it says this, Or who shut in the seas with doors when it burst out from the womb, when I made the clouds its garments and thick darkness its swaddling band, and prescribed the limits for it, and set bars and doors. In other words, who's controlling the sea, and said, Thus far you shall come, and no further, and here you shall your proud waves be stayed. And finally, you take a trip into Psalms. This is Psalm, what do we got here? 65:5. By awesome deeds, talking about God here, you answered us with righteousness, O God of our salvation, the hope of all the ends of the earth and the farthest seas, the one who by his strength established the mountains, being girded with might, who stills the roaring seas, we're talking about God, the roaring of their waves, the tumult of the peoples, so that those who dwell at the ends of the earth are in awe of your signs. You make the going out of the morning and the evening to shout for joy. Again, we're talking about God here, and you can also, if you want to see a few more, you can look at Psalms 89:9 and 107:39. Say pretty much the same thing. All right, so what does this all mean? What's going on here? What is Jesus saying? What is Jesus doing? Well, let's break it down and see what God is and what the expectation is that only God can control the weather, only God can do certain things, and why that's important for a discussion of Jesus as God. It's just one more piece of evidence here that Mark and the apostles knew and trusted that Jesus is God. Jesus took control of the weather that threatened their lives. Not just the weather, all sorts of natural events threaten our lives and are a threat to our well-being. In this case, they're in a boat and they're about to sink and all drown and disappear and no one's going to know what happened. And Jesus took care of that. The weather was not a threat to Jesus. He understood that this is under his control, and he got up and he took control of it. Excuse me. If the disciples of Jesus stayed with and followed Jesus, the weather and other natural things are not an obstacle. Like we say, oh, that mountain's got to move. That mountain is not an obstacle. We can go around it. We can get over it. We can move it. because we're following Jesus. They knew, because they had heard all their lives about the Psalms and about Job and about the Old Testament, that only God could determine the weather, could control the weather and other natural events. And Jesus did just that. So what is being said here very clearly is Jesus is God because he calmed the sea, he controlled the weather, he took charge of these events around them. So this was, for Mark and the others who followed Jesus, just another day following Jesus because he is God. They saw very clearly that he is God. They understood that he is God because of what he did. He walked around and talked and acted like he is God, and he proved he is God through things like this and the other stuff we've seen throughout this little series. All right, so what's all this mean? What's going on here? Well, first of all, to begin with, nothing we face can overcome us if we're living by faith and following Jesus and doing his will. Now, by that I mean you can't do anything you want, but we can do what God wants us to do by grace through faith. And whatever obstacles we see are subject to Jesus because Jesus is God. So whatever mountains there are cannot stop Jesus, again, because he's God. That's the point of all this. He is God. He can overcome. He has overcome. He will overcome. So this is the single most important piece of doctrine in all of creation and certainly in all of Christianity. We have to know it. We have to know that Jesus is God. But more important, it's a declaration of life to us. Jesus is saying, I am God, therefore I am your healer, therefore I am your redeemer, and so on. This is a message to us from God, the God of all creation, one directed at each person. That's directed at you and me. And there is life and there is hope in Jesus and in Jesus alone. And that is good news. All right, thanks for watching. You can find us on the web at clchurch.cc. That's clchurch.cc. We meet 10:30 Sunday mornings in 20 West Main Street, Catskill, New York. Hope to see you there, and thanks once again.